Mum was not well mentally. One night I was listening to them talk. Dad said, "You've got to tell her," and Mum said, "I can't." And it turned out that they were talking about me being told I was adopted. Oh. And I was 12. And you feel like you've just been plonked somewhere and you can only look forward and there's not much to look back on when you find out you're adopted. I'm a sum total of all those impacts. Yeah. And it's up to me how I deal with that. So I can choose to crawl up in a ball in bed and say, woe is me, the world's an evil, horrible place. Or I can say, you know what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And the great things that have happened to me have made me the person I am today. So I'm a sum total of all those things. I'm not going to be a victim, and yeah, bad things happen, but bad things happen to other people too.
Absolutely.
You know?
She's one of the most respected names in Australian skincare, a cosmetic chemist, scientist, and founder of Synergie Skin, the brand adored by dermal therapists and beauty editors alike. But behind Terri Vinson Jones's powerhouse persona lies a story of quiet resilience, deep trauma, and an unwavering drive to create lasting change. In this raw and radically honest conversation, Terri opens up about her adoption, growing up with a mentally unwell mother, and her battles with imposter syndrome and disordered eating. She also shares the most common skincare mistakes women make, along with science-backed tips for healthy aging and creating a toxin-free life. It's a powerful reminder that our deepest pain can shape our strongest purpose and become the very fuel that propels us forward. Only on Beautiful Inside by Beauticate.
Welcome to Beautiful Inside. I'm Sigourney and Cantelo. For over 20 years as a magazine beauty and health director and founder of Beauticate, I've shared stories about how to be beautiful on the outside. But recently, I've also been on my own journey to uncover what it means to be beautiful within. Inspired by my own experiences with mental health and healing, I'm meeting people who have remarkable stories to share. How have they come back from the brink of adversity and reclaimed their power? Now, before we dive in, I have a small favour to ask you. You have no idea what a difference it makes. Yep, you guessed it. Please hit subscribe or follow. This small gesture means that we'll have greater reach, better scope for guests, and more resources to make this show the very best that it can be. And feel free to comment on YouTube and tell me what you want to see more of. And together we can keep these important conversations going and continue to explore the link between inner and outer beauty. Now, this season 5 of Beautiful Inside is brought to you by Blue Haven Pools. Now, pools have become much more than just a place to cool off. They're now wellness spaces in their own right. A moment in nature, magnesium mineral water for your skin, even a cold plunge in winter. We chose Blue Haven for our recent pool build because they've had over 50 years of experience building beautiful pools across. We went with a custom concrete pool because they can be as creative as your Pinterest board. And if you're on a standard block, they've made it unbelievably easy. You can now literally buy a designer concrete pool online. Still owned by the founding family, CEO Ramonda brings both heart and intuitive design to every build. And a big thank you to Blue Haven for sponsoring this season. Beautiful Inside acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land that this podcast is recorded on, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Well, on Beautiful Inside, we like to go right back to the beginning, back to childhood. Yeah. So tell me about your childhood.
It was, I would say, tumultuous and also lonely. Okay, so I grew up an only child and went to a convent, which was an interesting, time in my life. I was incredibly lonely. I was also at a private school, and my dad spent every cent, because we didn't have much money, sending me to this school. It was a beautiful school. It was actually Loretto, and all my friends had the ability to go to Aspen and all these amazing places in the holidays, and you know, I didn't. So I kind of felt like I was not part of that group anyway. So I had to make my own way. And yeah, a little bit lonely having no brothers and sisters. And I remember my mum said I could have a lamb. I never even got that, but I wanted a lamb. I just thought having a little lamb would be great. But anyway, you know,
Terri
there was
had a little lamb.
Terri, and I wanted a black one too, which I don't know what that says.
So were you on a farm to have a lamb?
No, I just wanted a lamb. I think I read a story about a lamb, and I just thought that'd be awfully
And she promised
cute.
you a lamb.
She promised and didn't deliver.
That's a bit rough.
Yeah, no, that was a bit But no, I think the education I had was amazing, but there was something missing. And my dad was incredible, and I just miss him every single day. But Mum was not well mentally. One night I was listening to them talk. Dad said, "You've got to tell her," and Mum said, "I can't." And it turned out that they were talking about me being told I was adopted. Oh, and I was 12. And I remember Mum saying to Dad, "When she wakes up, she won't be our daughter anymore."
Oh, gosh.
And I thought, okay, I've got to belong. I have to pretend that this isn't happening. So I woke up that morning and pretended like nothing had happened. And I said, good morning, everybody. Terri. What's for breakfast? And yeah, it was just like, it was never discussed really again.
That's
so that was hard.
That's so interesting. So what was it? What was your mum's, was it a bipolar, or was she diagnosed with anything?
I honestly don't know, because I was really young, and in those days, I mean, thank God it's out there.
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about our mental
Absolutely.
health, and we can work on it. But back then, it was under the carpet. Even the fact that Mum couldn't have kids.
Yeah.
And I've got to have a bit of empathy for her. As much as she had mental health problems, also she couldn't have children. Yeah. So, and in I was born in '63. In the '60s, that's really hard.
Heartbreaking.
So.
It wasn't discussed.
It wasn't discussed.
And then you became the sort of the fixer, like the helping mum emotionally, stepping up to sort of, and you were never allowed to sort of grieve for what could have been, or what,
I think I lost my childhood that night. I woke up in that morning and I had to be a different person. And also, I think when you are adopted, and this is something I've learnt, you are terrified of being rejected. So that morning, I was spending I made that decision, don't be rejected. So therefore, if you pretend that nothing's happening, you can't be. If everything's business as usual, then I'm still yours. Therefore, I can't be rejected. Yeah. And that was my modus operandi for a while. It's really hard for me sometimes to try not to be that person that's always trying to pretend that everything's okay.
Yeah,
when
it's made you who you are, and you know, in so many ways.
Yeah.
I really feel that loneliness, because I was similar. I was growing up an only child, with parents that separate, and I know that feeling, and it would have been really hard though, knowing that even your parents weren't your parents. At what stage did you ever? Tell me again, did you end up meeting your parents?
Yes,
you did, didn't you?
No, my father passed away before I started my search. Unfortunately, he was a paediatrician in South Australia.
That's
Sounded
right.
like
you
an
found out
amazing
that
man.
You had the science in the blood.
Yeah, and I've met his sister, my auntie, who I absolutely adore, Auntie Margs. So that's been a fantastic journey. But my mother, Veronica, was a nurse and a midwife. Yeah, I met her when I was pregnant with my second child, with Georgie.
So that's when you started searching?
Yeah, I started searching because I thought, you know what, I have my children now, one on the way, I have a child, I'm strong enough to know whatever the story is, you know, are both my parents dead? Is one somebody, are they people I wouldn't want to know? There are all these questions, who am I?
Yeah.
You just, you know, you feel like you've just been plonked somewhere, and you can only look forward, and there's not much to look back on when you find out you're adopted.
Right.
And you're hungry for that history and knowledge.
Absolutely.
So she was great, by the way.
It was really good to meet her.
Yeah, it was really good to meet her. There was a bit of guilt associated with that, because eventually I had to tell my mother, who brought me up, that I'd met Veronica, and because I didn't want my son to accidentally spill the beans to my mum, and that didn't end well.
No.
So took a while.
So it was a challenging time growing up with her, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But my dad more than made up for that. I think he was just the most incredible man. He was a feminist. He he believed in the power of women. Women could do anything. I loved science. I loved it. A few people would say, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do, you know, something to do with, you know, something non-sciencey? It's more for boys. We're talking 70s. and you know, and I thought, no, I love it. And my dad said to me, you know what, Terri, you just do what you love, and who cares? So great. And I did.
Yeah. You did. You absolutely did. So tell me about your teenage years.
Yeah, well, my teenage years were a lot of fun. Was a little bit of a chubby kid, which
I can't imagine that.
Oh, I was, and a little bit, you know, sort of uncomfortable in my skin for a while, and then I kind of got myself into gear. And I probably wouldn't recommend this to most people, because back in the 70s we did silly things, but I ended up getting fit and healthy in the end. Not took a while.
What age was that?
About 16. Felt great about myself. Socially was feeling good. Discovered boys, because I went to a convent, so that was fun.
Yes.
And teenage years were good. Academically, I loved it, and then ended up getting into Monash and doing science, and absolutely loved that. So
wow.
yeah.
So how do you think that the fact that you were adopted influenced the way you grew up and what you were to become later in life?
From the moment I discovered I was adopted, in fact, I think there was something in the back of my mind that always thought that there was something that wasn't
Quite
right. I felt I had to move forward. And I hadn't met Veronica at that stage, so I thought, okay, all I have to do is go that way. So I have to make a mark. And I have had this intense drive in me for as long as I can remember to make a difference. And it's not a big difference. It wasn't, I want to make this, I had this big audacious goal to discover something. I just wanted to make my mark in the world. And I think having those goals has really driven me forward. Yeah.
Were you always very type A at school, like studied hard?
Yeah.
So you're just born like
very
that. Well, yeah, I see a lot of people I interview. It's definitely entrepreneurs, founders. They do have this drive and ambition that's usually very. It starts young.
It does, and
it's innate.
It is innate, and you know what? When my son, who's now 32, described me years ago when he was in his early 20s, and he said, "Mum, you're one of the most tenacious people I've ever met. You're very," and I see something that I need to achieve, and I will go for it.
So what were one of the first knockbacks or that really sparked that tenacity where you had to like pick yourself up, obviously finding out you're adopted and just making that decision going, I am going to pretend like nothing happened? That was maybe one of the first. Were there any others in your teenage years or early 20s that you kind of went, I am just going to pull myself up and dust myself off?
I think having your heart broken.
Yeah,
that is always hard. And I had, my heart
broken.
Early heartbreak? Yeah, I had an early heartbreak, and it was on a beach on New Year's Eve. It was pretty sad. But those little things, even though that you look back on it and you laugh, you think, no. But at the time, it has a huge impact on you. Also, your confidence gets impacted. But you know what? You've just got to. You pull yourself up and you move forward. And even
a boy broke up with you.
Oh yeah. And look, you know what, that happens. But the other thing is, I think I would come home from doing an exam, and this was something that I would never, I vowed I'd never do to my kids, is I'd come home and I'd say to my mum, I came second.
Yeah.
And she would always say, who came first or who beat you? And and it would make you think, wow, can I just have this little moment? Can you just say, well done, Because in my mind, I'd come home excited. So I think, I always say to my kids and even my team members at Synergie and my friends, we've just got to do our best. I'm not the best mother. I'm not the best CEO. I'm not the best formulator, but I do my best. Yeah. And that's all we can do.
Absolutely. And people know when you put your whole heart into it, like you do, that comes through. You
know what was also really fantastic is I've been in an all-girls environment, and I went from that to a university environment with males, and I really loved the male energy as well, and I started making some really good mates who were guys, and you must have been one of very few females. Yeah, in science, there weren't that many of us. Yeah. And the other interesting thing was, because I'd been in a private school environment, mixing with people who'd come from all different walks of life, country girls, country guys, it was so fantastic meeting all these people. And I actually realised that I had been, to be honest, and I think this is also the era, I had been really closeted. Yes. And it was so wonderful getting out of that. Being in the 70s too. This would have been, what was it like? Well, this is the 80s now. Oh, this is the 80s, the early 80s. Okay, yeah. The other thing is, and this is, I kind of don't talk about this a lot, but in 1980, I entered a quest. I ended up winning. That was Miss Teen. Yeah, Miss Teenager Victoria 1980. Congratulations. Yeah, thank you. The prize was a round trip to England with Miss Teenager and her mum, and mum said, no, I don't want to go. So I took my dad. And oh my God, he'd never been overseas. Oh my goodness. He'd never ever travelled. And I'd never travelled overseas either. So my dad and I went first class to England and travelled around Europe. Goodness. Then we went on Eurail. Sensational. It was so good. Who did you fly with back then? Went with Qantas. And it was weird back then. What was the first class like back then? It was weird because there was no little cubicles. Yeah. And my dad smoked cigars. I was going to say, were they still smoking on planes back then? It was disgusting. I had to, you're like, he's smoking cigars, and I got to sit at the front of the cockpit with the pilot as we were landing. Oh my gosh, so, that would have been epic. That was really epic. What a moment. And what were the memories that stand out from your trip? The one-on-one time I got with my dad,
Yeah.
the conversations, the places we went to together, the look on his face when he'd see things for the first time.
That he read about in books and things.
And he never.
Because where were you? Where did you grow up in Victoria?
Melbourne.
Melbourne?
Yeah, in Ashburton.
Ashburton.
Yeah,
okay.
Ashburton. And
and he'd been there all his life, never got out
much.
of Melbourne.
He'd been
really.
in Wood End for a little while in the
wow.
country, but he'd always been a Melbourne man. And so that was really special for him. And then he got sick a year later and passed from cancer.
Oh
so it
my
was the last trip
God,
we had
Terri.
together. So yeah.
Was it quite a quick decline, or did you?
About a year. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That would have been
Yeah,
so
so
hard. And how did your mum deal with that?
Not good. Yeah, I remember I had a guy I was going out with at the time who would end up being my first husband, and she wouldn't let him come to the funeral because she said it's all about me. But
What?
Yeah, so she didn't want. So I had to go on my own.
Oh my gosh.
That's
So you couldn't even have the support of someone that you needed right there by your side.
No.
Oh, it would have been tough.
But you know what? In hindsight, she didn't see that it wasn't about her loss. She didn't see the loss that I was facing.
She wasn't thinking it.
She didn't see it.
She wasn't thinking
And
that
it was
anyone else
like
could
it was.
feel it.
I have to have space for the mental illness she was suffering from. She wasn't a person who was I hate the word normal, but she wasn't a normal woman having normal grief.
You have a lot of forgiveness. So she was never diagnosed with anything?
No.
And she never saw a doctor or took medication for it or anything?
She took certain medications, but not stuff for a mental disorder.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is she still... she passed away.
Yeah.
When was that?
I'm going to say 15 years ago now.
Were you sort of in contact to the end?
Pretty much, yeah. I spoke to her a few days beforehand. Yeah. She kind of tucked herself away for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was she in a home or was she...
No, she was still at home. She hurt her hip. Yeah, she wasn't well.
How did she pass away?
We think it was a blood clot. Yeah.
It was a hard relationship, wasn't it?
It was hard. It was hard from the beginning. You know what? You don't know anything else. It was a relationship I had. And I keep going back to my dad was the balance in the relationship.
Thank God for
he was
him.
incredible.
And did you do much therapy about this, like around this?
Yeah, I did. I've seen a few psychologists over the years, and I find that it's very hard finding the right person. And to be honest, I probably need to look for somebody at the moment for different types of things in my life and different stresses. But I think what I didn't like was I saw a psychologist in the early years, and he tried to blame other people on what I was feeling, like blame your mother, blame this, blame that. And I think, yes, there are certain situations that have an impact on our lives, but we can't go blaming and be a victim. And I think for me, I will never be a victim. So, so these things happened to me, we talked about today. But there are also some very positive things that have happened to me, which we've also talked about.
Yes.
And I'm a sum total of all those impacts.
Yeah.
And it's up to me how I deal with that. So I can choose to crawl up in a ball in bed and say, woe is me, the world's an evil, horrible place. Or I can say, you know what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And the great things that have happened to me have made me the person I am today. So I'm a sum total of all those things. And I'm not going to be a victim. And bad things happen, but bad things happen to other people too.
Absolutely. And that's what gave you the drive and the ambition. And I still think back to that little 12-year-old Terri who just made that decision that she was going to carry on like nothing was, like that's a strength and something that, as sad as it is that you didn't get to feel what you needed to feel at that moment. Looking back all these years later, look at what you've done, what you've built, and it's
and you know what, being an only child, and you might relate to this too, Sig, you are kind of on your own quite a bit, and you do grow up differently, and there is an incredible sense of independence with an only child. And I think that's driven me too, and at the time I hated it. All I wanted was a sibling.
Same.
And, or a lamb.
You're just so jealous of everyone else.
I was so jealous, and to be able to even find out I was adopted and share that with a sibling that night, that would have, I thought, I wish I had someone to talk to.
But
I didn't.
But then siblings offer their own problems.
Exactly.
And, you know, like when I went to SPP, I told you a little bit about it, but sitting in a room and in these small, you know, group therapy sessions and hearing everyone's issues. And so often there was, you know, the favoured other child or, you know, it's like there are sort of, you know, arguments for both. So
I know, that's
interesting.
True. There's always a family dynamic and, you know, we go through that all the time. And I don't know, I feel like, yes, there are things that impacted me, but I have to look at where I am today, and I feel like I'm in a good place today.
You are.
I really do.
You seem to be.
And everything that all the paths and all the ducks and weaves that have taken me to this spot today, right now, and if I feel good, then that's all been worth it.
Yeah.
That's sort of how I see it. You know?
So talk me through. So there were some other challenges that you faced, weren't there, coming into your 20s with the relationship?
Yeah. I did meet my first husband. We had some fantastic years together, but then that kind of petered out a little bit, and I don't know, I mean, I feel funny talking about that because my kids, you know, they have a really good relationship with me, and I want them to have a great relationship with their dad, but yeah, things just didn't work out, and it was devastating because I felt like marriage to me was pretty sacred, and there are certain things in a marriage that should be solid. Yeah. And I was challenged by that, and this was not even in my 20s. This is only 10 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
More, about 10, 15 years
ago. So you stayed together until...
We stayed together. And you know what, like he loves the kids so much. He loves my two kids so much, but there's a reason why we're not married now.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I know I've grown up a lot. Yeah. And I've really got more of a voice too in relationships, which my husband today, who is the most amazing man, has allowed me to have that voice. And he always said to me, I want to make Terri the best Terri she possibly can be. That's what he says that to me so many times, and he does. That's what he does. He's incredible.
That is so beautiful. Yeah. So was it hard to make the decision to end it? Was it very like, or was it months and months of hard work and it wasn't working and you just guys went, okay, let's do it?
It was a combination. We did work. There's no doubt we tried. Yeah. Both of us tried. I think there was a sense, and I'll own the sense of emotional immaturity with me. I didn't have the tools.
Yeah. So you did counselling?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, we both did. And it just wasn't there. And for me, I didn't want to fail. I had this sense of failing my kids by leaving. I was the one that left the marriage. I felt like I was failing my kids.
Oh, that's so hard.
I think in hindsight, there's still a sense of guilt I feel, but I know that I'm a better person for being who I am today for them.
But if you asked your kids, they wouldn't ever blame you. Like, they would say, right?
No,
they just want what they sound like such
amazing.
beautiful.
I've
spoken to you about them.
They're both incredible.
So why do we do that to ourselves as mothers?
I don't know. We just and I know that I'm not the best mother. I'm not the best wife, but I do the best I can.
You do.
We do. We all do. And I've got to stop. We've got to stop whipping ourselves.
I know.
I think that's what we do. It's a woman thing.
Self-flagellation.
We do. Like I lie awake at night thinking, oh, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Yeah. Have I handled that conversation with my son this way well enough, or my daughter well enough? You know.
Well, I think one thing a therapist told me once was, how would you speak to your friend about this? That's how you should speak to yourself.
Yeah.
So would you tell your friend they shouldn't do this, or they should have done that, or just the compassion we have to feel for ourselves?
In fact, I'm seeing my best girlfriend today, and she is just like, oh, she's my rock. And she's also she's as good as any psychologist. Yeah. But if I had to talk to her and she was going through this, I'd say you're a great mum.
Exactly. So we need to turn that to ourselves.
Yeah, true. That's true.
So the work you did, and then so then where in the picture did Synergie? I remember this, that you had the business, the beauty therapy business. Yes. Yeah. So let's go back. So you came out of uni.
Actually taught for a few years, or not a few years, I taught for 2 years. I taught senior science. That wasn't for me because I felt it was very closeted, and I was always a bit entrepreneurial. Yeah. And I loved the aha moment with teaching, but the rest of it for me. And I did have an entrepreneurial spirit. I worked for a business, Colgate Palmolive, for a while.
Oh yeah.
Loved that. That really taught me so many
formulating or sales?
No, in trade marketing. It was fantastic. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And they didn't need somebody with a marketing degree, they needed somebody with a degree, which was great. So I was there for quite a few years. I learnt so much about business, it was incredible. And then I ended up going back to the science side of things. And I ended up working for a skincare company in education. I was the educator and I also did some formulations for them, and that was fantastic. Then I started my own business for medical marketing, working with plastic surgeons and doctors, helping to explain skincare ingredient technology to patients, and that was called Look Medical Marketing.
Oh wow!
And that was fun.
That's a clever idea. So you found these niches.
Oh, I loved creating all these, and I worked with some fantastic doctors back then, and then I'd saved up what I call my running away money, and it turned out I needed that money, but I didn't think, because I remember my mother-in-law always used to say, "Oh, you need running away money." It was kind of a joke.
Your mother-in-law said that to you?
Yeah, she was like, I know, exactly. And you know what? My mother-in-law and my father-in-law, they've both passed away now. They were just the most amazing people. And
how
my
lovely.
sister-in-law too.
So they were sort of surrogate parents.
They
additional.
They were actually. My mother-in-law was amazing. Anyway, this is a lot back then. I saved up $40,000.
Still a lot.
And I was sitting at Chadstone Shopping Centre waiting for my daughter Georgie to come out of the cinema. She was only a young kid. And
so this is what, 20 years ago?
It's about 24 years ago. Okay. 24 years ago, because Synergy's almost 20 now. Okay. But it was before Synergy. It was when I had the clinic. Yeah. So I thought, I'm going to open a skincare clinic and I'm going to formulate my own products in there, and I'm going to be the consultant. Amazing. And I will get some amazing, an injecting nurse and a beauty therapist, because I've got no beauty therapy qualifications at all. I totally admire those amazing individuals, and I'm not an injecting nurse, obviously. So I got these wonderful people in my life. I opened a clinic in Camberwell, called it Skin Formation Clinic, which is the name of my book.
Title?
Yeah. With my $40,000, I did up the clinic and I started formulating my own range with a compounding chemist in South Melbourne, who's still my friend to this day.
It's a big risk.
It was huge. But you know, the people say, "Oh, weren't you scared?" And for some reason I wasn't, but I knew that I felt like I could do it. This was all part of that make your mark feeling I had in my mind. And I do remember sitting, I was in Cookson Street, Camberwell. I remember sitting in Camberwell on our bench seat at Skin Formation thinking, where are the clients? They're not coming. Oh my gosh. And I remember a woman walked in. I think I nearly grabbed her by the neck and said, "Come on in here." and I started getting clients, and slowly they'd start buying my products, and GFC hit.
So this is the early 2000s.
Yeah, the early 2000s. And the GFC hit in 2008. And I remember getting an email saying, "I can't afford your treatments. I can't afford Botox with your injecting nurse. I can't afford, laser, but I can't afford not to have your vitamin B serum." And it's like, okay, that was my light bulb moment, because people couldn't afford to have the treatments. They just couldn't, and they were still buying my products.
Wow.
So that was my...
So what was the name of the brand then?
It was called Skin Formation. Okay. The brand was, it was just, I used to get Office
Have you got photos of it?
Yes,
I want to see it.
It was the daintiest blue label. I think I've got it somewhere in my archives. But it was, I used to get the labels printed at Office Works and put them on the products.
And stick them on yourself.
Yeah, and I go to these sort of low minimum order quantity companies, which were fantastic for me at the time, and they do things for me. So I thought, what am I doing here? I'm not a beauty therapist. I'm not an injecting nurse. I'm a scientist. I'm a formulator, and I'm a business person. So what I did was I gave my database away to a local Hawthorne beauty salon.
Gave it.
You
would have sold it these days.
No, see, I know, but sometimes you just got to...
You just wanted to do something good.
Yeah. Gave it away. I literally sold my Cutera laser, which was a state-of-the-art back then. Still friends with the people that worked with me at the time. I opened up a little place in Burwood and started creating my own products there, and it was just Synergy then.
So you called it Synergy from the start?
Yeah, that's when I called it Synergy. It was a bit of time where it was Synergy in the clinic in Camberwell, and then once I went to Burwood, it was 100% Synergy. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm trying to think when we met, because then it wasn't that much longer after.
Because I remember I was introduced to you by a mutual friend of ours, Michelle Carney.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And
still
I'm just trying to think what your first launch that I would have attended was, or something.
We've been in each other's lives for so
long.
long.
I know. I feel like it would be close to 20 years.
Yeah. It was because you came to Burwood.
Yeah, I did. I came to that offer, your beautiful head office, and you baked bread.
I baked bread, and you looked at my walking desk.
Yes. I've still always kept all of like Terri's like suggestions. Like I went and got a hyper vibe after you told me about it.
I used it this morning.
Mine's on the blink. I need to fix it. I know I haven't been using it. But
I tell you, for a woman in her 60s, if your bone density is not great,
it's the best thing ever, isn't it?
Sure.
Have you had your bone density looked at since you've been using it?
Yes, and it's gone up very, very slightly, but I've also been using vitamin D3, K2 in combination and calcium.
Yeah.
Also been very mindful of my nutrition and weight bearing anyway, but that's...
You're doing it all.
Yeah.
So being in the beauty industry, what have been some of the biggest challenges? I mean, you're always having to be putting yourself out there.
I still struggle with that. I still feel like I'm... And this is so wrong, but I'll be honest, I still feel like I'm becoming less relevant as I get older, and I know that's so wrong, and I've got to, and I champion older women all the time, but it's in me, and I think it's a thing that I really have to work on that myself. Yeah.
Well, you do a very good job. You're so good at education and talking, and I think it's.
And we're amazing. Like, women are amazing, and older women in our wisdom and the things I wish I knew then that I know now. Like, I say that to my kids all the time. You are so lucky that I'm telling you this because I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you say you were a late bloomer. So you were how old when you launched Synergie?
Oh gosh, I was about 40.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm 62 now. So Synergie's just on 20.
You seriously look 10, 15 years younger than that. You look amazing.
It's a bit
all
of
the things.
I'm not going to lie, but yeah, it's and it was a hard journey. I mean, I had my own insecurities, and when I won them as a teenager, there was tremendous pressure on me. And we're talking about the early 80s. With Dolly magazine, this diet, the Israeli army diet, and honestly, the girls nowadays, I'm so pleased that women are more comfortable in their skin because I wasn't, and I ended up having an eating disorder.
Oh gosh!
So I had bulimia, and I had a little bit of anorexia, but then I was eating, and then I felt guilty, and then I would vomit, and you feel disgusting.
How long did you have that for?
I'm almost trying to block out the period, but I would say about 6 years.
That's so...
And that had an impact on so many. You felt guilty, you felt ugly, you felt like it was my way of staying in... It was a control thing, and it was also maintaining a persona that you thought everybody else expected of you. I did have to have counselling to get out of it, obviously.
Yeah.
I had to have a lot of cognitive therapy, and it's a part of me that I can, thank God, say that's no longer a part of my life. What I put in my body now is what I eat is so important to me.
How long did it take to really work with a counsellor over that?
It took a few years, and I think there'll always be a part of you that doesn't believe that you're looking good. Yeah. There is a little bit of dysmorphia sometimes, but I've realised that, and I just try and snap out of it.
So you just talk. What did you learn about yourself in that process?
I learned that I felt like the only way I could control myself was by what I put in my body and what I could get out of my body. And it was so wrong on many levels. And once I realised that there were so many other elements of my life I could control, and that if I can't control it, and I still am working on this, I have to let it go. I would say one of the things I'm disappointed in myself is I'm too much of a control freak sometimes. I try and control too much of my environment, and I really envy those people that can just let it go.
Why do you think you're such a control freak?
Because my environment when I was young was chaotic.
Yes.
Outside of my room was chaos, inside of my room was sanctuary. It was clean, it was organised, it was ordered.
Was it messy?
Outside of my room, yeah.
Was your mum a hoarder?
Yes, she had a hoarding problem.
Oh, wow.
So she would keep dead batteries, dead biros, junk mail. She'd open a drawer and everything would fall out. So I'd actually try and clean the house for her, but then it would just get bad again.
Oh, that's so hard.
So
no wonder you had control issues.
Yeah, so my room, and I remember my boyfriend at uni used to say, I don't know how you leave that house looking the way you do, so neat, when the house was like that, but my room was just... So I think,
God, that would have been really tough. And also trying to keep everything clean as well, right? Because it's,
So I think there's still an element
and the
of...
shame.
Yeah.
Bringing people home. And
that didn't happen very much.
How did your dad deal with the hoarding? He just allowed,
Dad
accepted
would
it?
always try and keep the peace. He was not a confrontational person, and I also learnt growing up that you didn't rock the boat either, because it didn't end well. So you just had to. And I think it's only been the last 10 years that I've had the courage to really stand up for things. Well, maybe a bit longer than 10 years, but as I've
We become people pleasers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also codependence is something I learned about. I don't know if you've been aware of the kind of concept of codependence, but there's a book called Facing Codependence by Pia Mellody, and that's what sent me off to SPP, was because my psychologist said, you're codependent. And it's quite often a result of childhood trauma.
Okay.
And so we go into overdrive of trying to people please and keep the calm and keep control of things.
Anything to keep calm.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to have a little bit of discomfort to get to the other side of something. My daughter's really taught me that, and we have a wonderful relationship, and she's taught me that discomfort gets you forward, and you know, it really does.
So what does that look like day to day?
Being able to have difficult conversations, but respectfully.
Because I hate confrontation because of the codependence.
Yep. Are
you the same?
Yes.
For people like us as well, having chaos around you is so hard to deal with.
It was incredibly dysregulating for me, and I think that was the thing. If I could control what I put in my body, if I could control my environment, my immediate environment, and then the minute I had enough money, I moved out.
Oh gosh!
Like almost the day I had the job, I worked with Jen Zano as a teacher for just under 2 years. I found a place to live. I just couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah, I can understand why. Wow. In your 20s, you know, you were after the quest.
Yeah.
And you were dealing with the bulimia. What was the rock bottom of that? What did that look like? What was the moment when you realised you needed to get help?
I was at a party, and I was just eating way too much at this party, feeling disgusting. Went to the toilet to get rid of it, and I came out and somebody knew. I could see they knew what I was doing, and I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I'm more than embarrassed. I had total shame, and I felt ugly. And I remember thinking, I can't do this anymore. I've got to do something. But an eating disorder is something that is just so much more than it's about all the stuff that's going on in your head. So unless you deal with that, you can't start to turn the corner. And I think believing in myself again, and also getting out of the habit of it. It is a habit, and once you can give yourself...
It's an addiction.
It is an addiction, and so I used to give myself little goalposts. Yeah. If I could go a certain amount of time, and then I'd extend, and then I'd
extend. Would you binge then?
When I had bulimia, I would binge.
Yeah.
But when I was giving myself these goalposts, yes, I would, and then I'd feel very guilty because I thought I'll get fat. And
so it's this vicious cycle.
Yeah, it's horrible.
So would you reward yourself with food? Was that the way it worked? Or would you reward yourself with, when you say goalposts?
At the time, food was not a reward. It was a weapon. And it wasn't something that I saw as nutrition. And I think I had to change my relationship with food. And today, my relationship with food is so beautiful. Yeah. I eat when I'm hungry. I don't even think about calories at all. I do intermittent fast, but what I eat after that fast is concentrated nutrition and beautiful food. I eat for health and longevity. I would say I am a little bit OCD about health span.
Yes.
Very OCD.
Yeah.
Come on, who's kidding me, Terri?
That's why I'm always grilling you about it.
I am OCD about health span, but if I start to think I'm losing too much weight, I'll just get back and try and eat again, or eat more again. Yeah. My problem is that when I'm anxious and stressed, I find it hard to eat. And so I've got to make sure. So I've got to make sure that I'm always in a positive space. But that's not to do with an eating disorder as such. It's more of an anxiety thing for me.
Do you think you have anxiety?
At the moment, probably, yeah. I do.
Have you ever tried medication for it?
I did. When I was going through my divorce, I took antidepressants, not anti-anxiety medication.
Well, they're often prescribed for anxiety.
And it did help. I try and do more of the natural stuff, like nootropics, ashwagandha, that sort of thing, and that is helping me. Yep. But I think being the personality type I am, and I remember my husband said to me the other day, he said, can you just stop thinking for a minute? Because we're walking and I'm going, in a nice way, it was like, stop thinking, but I go, and this, that, we've got to do this, we've got to do that.
Have you ever looked at ADHD?
I think I should.
There's
a thought.
takes one to know
I
one,
know.
you see.
Honestly, I haven't been diagnosed, but I would almost lay money on the fact that I have ADHD.
I think possibly.
Do you think I possibly do?
Yeah.
Just put it out there.
I see a lot of similarities in you and me.
Yeah.
It's a hyper laser focus when you're
Yes.
interested in something, but also the high energy. And they say that the ADHD in women, the H is actually hyperarousal. So it's not hyperactivity.
Okay.
So the way it presents is that our brains are just never stop.
And I thought that was normal. And I said
yeah.
to Alan, you just
your
don't
brain
talk
like
about what's going on in here. I just talk about it. And he goes, no.
Imagine having that nice quiet brain.
ADHD, I think, is a funny name because it's not a deficit.
No.
It's not an attention deficit. Although if things aren't interesting to me, to be honest, talk to the hand.
Yeah.
But if things are even remotely interesting, I will go down a rabbit hole on learning about it. And like you said, laser focus, obsessive on a subject.
It's funny because, the concept of ADHD or ADD, kids are always the ones that are acting up in class. But they can also be the really obsessed students that are type A personalities too.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how all these sort of neurodivergent discoveries are coming up now.
Yeah.
But look, if there's no reason to get diagnosed unless you think it's sort of hampering your daily life.
It could be, and I think it would be something I do. I actually think neurodivergent people, and I know a lot of neurodivergent people, I think they're wonderful.
Yeah, we're always attracted to each other.
It's flavour.
Yeah, it is.
It's flavour in the world.
It is. Colourful
and who wants to be neurotypical? Who?
Exactly. I think everyone's a little neurodivergent.
I think we're all
in ways.
we're all an A spectrum. Yeah.
Whether we say we're codependent or not, but a lot of us struggle with imposter syndrome. How has that presented for you, if it has?
I can absolutely give you a great example. Okay, so when I started Synergie and became really focused on helping people understand the science behind ingredient technology, and I would put myself up to speak at conferences. The biggest conference that I used to speak at was the non-surgical symposium for the creme de la creme of the medical industry and the aesthetics industry. And I remember the first time I was speaking, I was so nervous. I was in the hotel room for hours, almost mute. I was so nervous. And I put so much effort into my presentation. And all I could think of was, oh my God, these doctors are so smart and I'm such a dummy and I'm such an imposter and they're just going to laugh at me and it's going to be bad.
You forgot all the degrees and all the business experience.
Irrelevant, totally irrelevant.
Was this because before you wrote your book too?
Yes, this is before my book. I was still nervous and sometimes I got some hairy questions, but I got through them. And fast forward to the second talk and the third talk and the fourth talk, and then all of a sudden I realised, hey, I actually have stuff I'm telling you that you actually don't know about. And I'd have doctors come up to me and say, hey, this study I saw, what do you think of this? And I'd start getting, people would ask for my advice and I thought, oh, I got it. Okay. Yeah. But look, there are still moments.
Do you still get it sometimes?
Oh yeah, of course I do.
Even with all your experience?
No, when I'm in company of somebody who I'm exalted company, somebody I really, really respect, I don't feel like sometimes I'm worthy. Yeah. And
many of us feel that way.
And sometimes it makes me even more determined to learn and become more proficient at what I do. So
it's not such a bad thing, then, is it?
No.
Obviously, running a business this size, with this much success comes with its own challenges. How do you look after your mental health now?
I need to work on it, to be honest, Sig. I'm not doing enough at the moment because I'm spending so much time on so many other elements. But what I try and do is I try and carve out at least half an hour in a day, at least, for me. And that involves certain rituals I do, which may not be meditation, but...
You don't meditate ever?
I have, and I have trouble calming my brain, to be honest. One of my close girlfriends is a yoga instructor and she's been at me for years to do yoga with her. But do you find yoga too slow? Yes. I'm just like, come on, let's do something more intense.
Try vinyasa flow.
Yeah, that's what she said to do. Do you do that?
Yes.
Do you love it?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. And how often do you do
it?
So
good. At least probably once a week when I'm being good, but sometimes more, sometimes 2 or 3 times when I'm good, and it's life changing.
Okay.
But now I'm even trying yin, which is very slow, but it's so good, especially for these fast, speedy brains.
Well, I love Andrew Huberman's podcast.
Yeah,
and he does NSDR. So I've tried non-sleep
yoga
deep
nidra.
rest. Yeah, yoga nidra.
Yeah.
So I think that I could do that. And when I do my red light therapy, I try and calm my brain. And I find red light therapy does actually, for some reason,
it's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it does relax me.
Have you tried Insight Timer?
No, what's
it's
that?
an app. It's free and it's got thousands of meditations on there. And you can just search yoga nidra and they've got like ones for loving kindness meditation or like whatever you feel you need that day, anxiety, anti-anxiety or confidence booster or whatever. You can find them and you bookmark them and they're free. I used 2 last night when I couldn't get back to sleep. There's ones that are like called get back to sleep meditation and they're really good. And I put them on with my red light too. Oh,
doesn't it calm you? It is just the most red light therapy. I mean,
do you have panels as well?
Do I have panels?
I thought we talked about your panels. How big are your panels?
I've got a very big panel. No, it's actually taller than me. So
how cool.
We've just bought this beautiful place in the Sunshine Coast and I bought a panel for
You're going to have to do a little video for me when you get home because I've got to see all this.
Well, I actually have, you know how I like to multitask. You know me well enough to know that. Yes. So I've got my big panel. Behind my panel I have my vibrational plate, my Hypervibe.
Brilliant.
And then with that I have my resistance bands.
Oh, your
so I'm in front of the red light panel, vibrating with a YouTube video on.
We definitely need a video of this, Terri.
And I'm smashing it out.
Yeah, well that's right. I'm the same. I do the opposite though. I sit in front of my light and I meditate.
See, that's what I need to do.
Maybe,
Although this morning I don't have that set up in Melbourne. This morning I have the panels across my bed and I lie on my side.
I do that sometimes, and you lie with it.
You can lie with it, and you don't have to. A lot of people think, I don't want to sit up, and it's not comfortable sitting for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you put it across your bed, it's great.
And when you're sick, it's the best thing. Yeah. You just lie, and I'll rotate like a rotisserie chicken, and I'll do my back, and I'll read my book, and then I'll switch. And do you cover your eyes?
No,
I don't either, but it's fine. It's good for your eyes.
There's a lot of evidence to say that it actually stimulates mitochondria in the retina.
Yeah.
So
Huberman did a whole thing about
we
that
love
too.
the Hube. I love that guy.
He's great.
He's had a bit of controversy.
I know. I was really upset when I heard about all this stuff.
But you know what?
He's still a good educator.
Yeah.
We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. He's done a lot for science.
He has. He absolutely has. And he's such an interesting guy. And he's had his own journey with ADHD too.
Right. Oh, I haven't heard him talk about it.
Yeah. So he was actually going to be, unless he had therapy for his ADHD, he was going to be thrown out of school.
Oh, wow.
So look at him now.
Look at that. Yeah. Wow. So talk me through your ritual, your morning ritual, what you do.
Okay. So my morning ritual is I have a cup of tea in a pot because I don't use tea bags anymore because of PFAS. I've gone PFAS free in my life.
So
I've got
PFAS, are they the
forever chemicals?
And what are they in tea bags?
Well, not all tea bags, but it's very hard to discern whether they are. So the latest thing is they're in certain tea bags. So I'm having leaf tea now. Yeah.
What are the other, sorry, I want to finish the PFAS thing. What are some of the other scary, terrifying things that you found out about PFAS?
I know you don't want to do this. I don't want to be scary, but
just things that you are changing in your life.
So I've got reverse osmosis water filters in my house. So that is the best.
So the most important thing is your water.
What you put in your body every day is the most important impact you can have on PFAS reduction. So that is water. So hydration through tea, through your coffee machine. I have a soda stream, but I use the glass one, so I don't put in plastic. But it's not so bad with cold. It's heat, and it's anything with oil. Oil absorbs PFAS, and heat releases PFAS into the food.
So takeaway containers,
my gosh, they are
or even
worst.
Takeaway containers full stop.
You know what I was saying to Alan the other day? Would it be weird?
If you brought your own container.
Yeah, to the Thai take because I love my Thai takeaway.
That is genius.
So my glass decor, you know.
Oh my God! So if you eat a lot of takeaway, you're getting multiple. Yeah. So even the heat from the food when they put it in there is leaching the plastic out of it.
And plastic takeaway cups where you have your coffee, there's all these microplastics in the cups. So when they put the boiling coffee in there, you're releasing all the PFAS. So keep cups are really important.
Oh my goodness.
Stainless steel or glass water bottles. I've even changed my Ninja from the plastic cup Ninja to a glass jug Ninja.
Oh wow, that's great. Are you worried about air fryers with the non-stick?
Yes, so I use silicone. Silicon's a lot better than the non-stick, and there's a new air fryer out called Green Pan.
Right.
Green Pan has PFAS-free everything, and I've changed everything to Green Pan.
What cookware do you use?
Green Pan.
Green pan.
Yeah, it's called Green. It's a special brand that has no PFAS. Also, I use stainless steel.
So no non-stick anything. Never.
Threw it all out when I found out about this. Rhonda Patrick, have you heard her podcast? She is a brilliant scientist, looks at all the research, and she has a lot of information on PFAS.
Okay, I'm going to look that up. So what is the one thing that everyone needs to stop doing to prevent themselves getting the forever chemicals?
I think the most important thing is water filtration, to be honest. Is that the low-hanging fruit is what you put in your body every day, and if you can impact that and take away plastics from your pantry.
Okay, so even storing dried stuff in plastic containers in your pantry?
Dried stuff isn't so bad, and powdered foods like flour, sugar is not so bad, but things like nuts with oils in it can absorb the PFAS. I've got to say, Kmart's fantastic. They've got so many glass and Pyrex containers now, and you can even get mason jars and vacuum seal them.
Wow.
So,
what about chopping boards? I saw something the other day.
Yeah, don't use plastic. Got rid of those too. Yeah.
What do you think about those metal ones? What are they? There's like stainless steel ones, but I think it's going to blunt the knife. Yeah.
No, I think bamboo or any form of timber hasn't got plastic in it to make it harder.
But what about your wooden implements absorbing germs?
I'd rather have germs than PFAS. Because it builds our immune system.
Can you use silicone? No.
I use silicone.
Silicone safe?
Yeah, silicone
How
safer.
is silicone different to plastic?
Because it's not made of plastics, it's made of silica, which is often sand related to silica. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't, and it absorbs certain chemicals and it absorbs certain smells. But if it's just food, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yep.
Okay, let's go back to your
Stainless steel's good too. Stainless steel implements.
Yeah.
I think if you're really going to be a purist and you want no man-made product in your food, you would go wooden implements.
Wooden implements, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so talk me through. So you have your cup of tea with a tea bag, which is, without tea bags, which is really lovely anyway as a ritual.
It's my ritual. Yeah.
I love that. Where do you take your tea? Do you go and sit outside or?
In bed.
In bed,
yeah,
nice.
Tea in bed in the morning. If my beautiful husband brings that to me.
That's right.
Yes.
I remember you telling me. That's so romantic.
And I do my red light therapy, which will be 5 minutes each side. With the panel across the bed.
Oh, you're
and this is in Melbourne. Or if I'm in where I've got my panel, I get my bands, I get my Bybee.
Every morning?
Every morning. Every single morning.
10 minutes?
10 minutes. 5 minutes face, 5 minutes back.
Amazing.
Yeah.
This is your secret. I think this might be one of your... Well, you do everything though. I
do.
How do we know what to do? Because you do it all.
I do. Look, I do quite a few things. I also have hydrogen water, so I have a little water hydrogenator because that's fantastic.
What's that called, the brand that you use? I saw that on Gary Brecker using that. I think I've got that one with the black plastic one.
Yeah, so unfortunately it's plastic, but I put it into glasses.
What are they thinking?
I know.
That's
why would you
madness.
do that? Exactly.
We're going to have to talk to them about that. We'll petition to make a glass
It's
one.
so hard to get plastic out of every element.
And blah, blah, blah.
True. Yeah.
So hydrogen water?
Hydrogen water.
Do you take salt? Do you do bar
yes, I
sea
do,
salt?
and I do Himalayan Celtic sea salt or Himalayan pink salt.
So do you drink it in water?
A little bit,
It's horrible.
Yeah.
I tried it and I'm like,
you don't need much.
Really?
And just chug it down. And the other thing you can do is what I also do to reduce blood sugar is I try and have vinegar before I have a meal in water, a little tiny bit of apple cider vinegar in water, and it reduces the blood sugar spike. Especially if you're having rice or carbs or sugar, you can actually reduce the impact of blood sugar by having a little bit of vinegar in your water.
How much?
Not only a teaspoon.
Oh.
Not much, I know. Just chug it, just chug it.
So you're very good at being disciplined, I find.
I think, I've got a big supplement stack.
Yeah. Okay, talk me through your supplement stack.
Oh my God, it's a tackle box.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's like that big, isn't it?
It is big. Look, I think it's really important to take our B vitamins. So I take a B vitamin. I also take berberine to reduce blood sugar spikes.
See, I'm on metformin.
Metformin's really good as well.
Why did you choose berberine over metformin?
No, I do both.
Oh, you do both?
I do both, yeah. Yep, I do berberine and metformin. But if you have metformin, you have to have vitamin B12 as well because metformin reduces your B12.
Oh dear.
So I make sure.
Do you get the methylated one?
Yes. Oh yeah.
So have you got the MTHFR gene?
I haven't checked. No. Have you?
I haven't checked, but I've had people say I'd put my money on you having it. It's apparently, again, it's sort of like ADHD sort of personalities are often the the ones
the
that have got
methylation,
the motherfucker gene.
every single methylation is so important.
So you should have it anyway, even if you don't have
even
the
if you don't have the
MTHFR.
MTFR gene.
What is the methylated form of supplements?
Oh, it's methyl B12, cobalamin, pure cobalamin, which is B12. You have methyl cobalamin, so it's a methylated form. So it actually adds methyl groups to your body, and you can actually metabolize chemicals in your body better. It protects your epigenome because methylation is the basis of switching genes on and switching genes off. So the epigenome are the little signals that sit above your genes that say, turn on this gene, make this protein, don't they make this protein, or make more of this protein, and that's all to do with the methylation above your genes.
Wow.
So it's really, really important.
Okay, so we have to switch which supplements do we need to take that's methylated? Just B12?
Think for me, I'm not brand specific, but I do like the Thorn brand. That's a very good brand. But anybody that does third-party testing, so independent third-party testing, that's so important.
But which of the vitamins, like B12, should we get everything methylated or just certain
I only have, because sometimes it's the unmethylated B12 isn't as great for you. So I do have that. But I think as long as you have some methylation in your stack, and that's what I choose. So you don't have to have everything methylated.
So you've got vitamin B, you've got D and K?
Yes, I've got D. K2, because you can't absorb the calcium into your bones without K2, and calcium is really important, but it's just going to go out the door if you don't have K2 to take it to the right place. So K2 takes the calcium to your bones and doesn't deposit it on the blood vessels, which can cause.
So you're not taking calcium?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do additional calcium,
vitamin D, and K2. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then Synternals?
Synternals,
of course.
Yes,
Which products?
Well, obviously I take my NAD booster, Energize Plus.
Love Energize Plus.
Game changer for jet lag, for just energy levels, and obviously mitochondrial health. In fact, can I show you something?
Yes.
This is really cute. This is my Christmas present from my husband. It's a mitochondria.
Oh my goodness. Oh, we have to get a close up. Oh wait, I'll get a close up. You've got to see
I know
this.
you've got your special glasses. This
That
is
is
so
adorable. Gosh, how
shiny.
How romantic is
It is.
he?
He's so beautiful.
Oh,
From our own.
that's so beautiful.
So he had it laser cut onto gold, and so I always wear my mitochondria close to my heart, so I feel energized. So every cell in my body is buzzing.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Yeah. Okay, so you've got your.
I've got my Energize Plus, my Alga Omega 3,
that's your new
EPA,
product.
DHA.
Yes.
Yeah. So that to me.
Tell me about that.
Well,
this is really cool.
So every disease, everything that negatively impacts our body comes down to one fundamental factor, and that's inflammation. And EPA and DHA are the most incredible molecules for minimising inflammation. DHA more for the brain, EPA more for the heart, but they both work in general for inflammation. So what I wanted to do was find, okay, what's the source of the EPA and the DHA? The Alga Omega 3, which is from marine algae. And this is the source that the fish use to get their DHA and EPA. So you're going straight to the food chain source. And my concern with fish sources, and there are some good, but it's very, very hard to discern, is they can have heavy metals and mercury, whereas your algae doesn't. And this particular strain we got from a lab in Germany that actually isolates the cells of algae, grows them in a lab, and feeds them the perfect nutrient combination to get the right balance of EPA and DHA.
Coddled algae.
Coddled algae, absolutely. So this is the most pure and also sustainable source, and it's vegan, because there are so many vegans.
Because you can't have fish.
I can't. No,
you're allergic,
yeah,
aren't you?
Yeah, I am very.
So that set you on a mission to find the ultimate.
It did, and then once I deep dived into it, I discovered that this form is so much more powerful and so much more sustainable, and you don't have the inherent risk. And it's not look. Obviously fish oil is fantastic, and there's some fantastic forms of it, but to me this is the source. This is going to the source.
It's genius.
Yeah.
How many pills do you take a day?
Oh gosh, I would say about 15. I know, but I don't.
Do you mix them up over breakfast and lunch and dinner?
In the morning I take obviously my Energize Plus.
Yep.
I always take anything oil-based, take with food. You can't take oil-based supplements on an empty stomach.
I can't take any supplements on it. I get the worst reflux.
And also, I get nauseous.
Me too.
There's only a few I could take.
Swallowing things.
I know.
I also won't do it if it's not a capsule.
No.
I can't do big ones.
I can do powders.
Yes.
So I also take taurine and NAC.
Yep.
For immunity, because NAC increases glutathione.
What's NAC? Oh, NAC.
N-acetylcysteine.
Oh.
And that I take that every day in a powder form, and I take that with taurine.
Do you do resveratrol?
I actually prefer astaxanthin to resveratrol, but I do resveratrol in combination with my Energize Plus. So I don't take resveratrol as an isolated supplement. I take it with my Energize.
In the Energize Plus.
It's in the Energize Plus. So there's been some fantastic studies on resveratrol and the longevity side of that as well. Astaxanthin is also fantastic, and that's good for skin.
Are you going to add that to
See how I go.
Okay, do you do what else? Vitamin C?
Yeah, I take liposomal vitamin C because it's encapsulated and it's more bioavailable, so I do that. Ashwagandha. I take low-dose melatonin for its antioxidant every night. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you do creatine?
No, I don't. No.
Why not?
I actually am sensitive to creatine. I wish I could.
Yeah, I keep hearing so many good studies
I
about
would
it.
if I could.
Okay. Yeah. And anything else? Electrolytes?
Well, I take my Celtic sea salt or my Himalayan pink salt. Try not to get salt like the normal white salt because that can have PFAS in it because of where it's coming from and the water.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I know. But Celtic sea salt and Himalayan pink salt are fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Sorry,
skincare.
I'm so
No, I love it. I love it. We're nerding out. Biggest skincare myth that needs to just die immediately?
I think the biggest skincare myth that should die is collagen in skincare. Not collagen in supplements.
You're okay with collagen ingested?
I'm totally okay with that. Collagen peptides. But collagen is a massive protein. It is a very, very big complex protein. And I see a lot of collagen in skincare. All it does is it plumps up dead skin and sits on the surface. It's not getting in. So never think that collagen on your skin is going to become collagen in your skin. A little bit like hyaluronic acid.
Yes.
And I just got same thing.
It still has a plumping effect.
Yeah, it still has a plumping. It depends on the molecular weight. So I actually have 4 molecular weights of hyaluronic acid in my lab, in my skin lab here. And the lower the molecular weight, the deeper it goes. But it still doesn't get into the dermis, which is the main place it's made. It's primarily made in the dermis to attract water, to plump the skin and hydrate. And so the stuff that we put on our skin is great, but it doesn't get deep inside. So when people say, oh, it's working deep into the skin to increase hyaluronic acid, yes, there are ingredients that I can use. There are marine ingredients that can increase hyaluronic acid in the dermis, but hyaluronic acid put on the skin will very, very unusual to get in the dermis unless you needle it in or inject it.
Okay. And what do you think is the biggest mistake that women make with their skincare?
I think they can overdo everything and throw everything at their skin at once and not be mindful about what their skin really needs. And I think back in the day, I think women were, and it is a little bit today, they overuse exfoliants and they overuse AHAs. And that can actually put the skin under stress. And we're now realising that the barrier is the most important thing that we can protect. So if you throw everything in your skin at once and don't do a controlled experiment, which is what good scientists should do, and say, okay, my skin is sensitive, therefore I'm only going to put 1 or 2 things on my skin for a week and then build into that, rather than, oh, I'm going to put aloe vera and, you know, it's Canadian willow herb and this and this and this and see if it all helps. You don't know what's helping and you don't know what's hurting. So I think try and start with a simple skincare routine if you're challenged, and then introduce things gradually.
If you could only use 3 skincare ingredients or products for the rest of your life, what would they be?
Okay, easy. Can I add cleanser? Because I think it's important to cleanse.
Okay.
All right. Microbiome balancer.
Oh, wow.
So Dermiotic, which
Dermiotic,
is
yes.
a game changer for me. Vitamin B serum and sunscreen. Niacinamide. So
Vitamin B over vitamin A. Oh.
Yes, because this is my own personal experience, but vitamin B changes the appearance and the luminosity and the health of your skin so quickly. It's so beautifully assimilated to the skin. I love retinoids, don't get me wrong.
So your product, which of your products
vitamin
would that be?
B serum or XLB, which is the stronger B.
Oh, I need to get on that one.
Yeah.
Dial it up.
We've dialed it up. But vitamin B has always been the one if I was on a desert island.
Well, that was the one that your first customer said, I can't live without your vitamin B.
Exactly. And this, we're talking 20 years ago, and I went to a conference in Vegas about 15 years ago, and this doctor said, have you heard of niacinamide? It's the big thing. It's like that old thing. I've been using that for 5 years. So I've always been a big
vitamin B pusher.
You have. And sunscreen, obviously.
Now sunscreen.
Yes.
Physical or chemical?
I hate fear-mongering. I got sucked into the whole fear-mongering thing about 15 years ago. Mind you, when I started Clean Science, it was never clean beauty. And I think people confuse Synergie with clean beauty, and it's not. So clean to me means transparent and being open and honest about what's in your formulas. And it's, yes, I've got a library of ingredients here at Springvale, and I've got things that I will never use. And they're things that I don't believe serve us in our skin, but I'm not going to go, we don't have this, we don't have that, it's bad, it's going to kill you, you're going to get breast cancer. Oh, well, I don't. There are things I don't have. I don't have artificial fragrance, artificial colour, phthalates, parabens. There's about 40 things I would absolutely not have.
Yes,
but
and that's why I feel safe with your range.
Yeah.
But I don't mind you shouting that from the. I know that you're not about fear mongering, but I think it is important that people know.
Look, if there is this is my theory. If there's smouldering evidence against an ingredient,
Why would you use it?
why would you use it?
Exactly.
And why would you not find an alternative?
Yeah.
And that's how I was when I started Synergie years ago. It was like I would look at the evidence, and if there's anything negative, I won't use it. For example, like silicone or silicones, they can be congesting. They're not necessarily comedogenic, but they're fine to use on the lips because we haven't got pores on our lips. So I don't have a problem, but they're not environmentally friendly. Some silicones can take decades to break down in the environment in terms of skincare, and we put them in our waterways. So there are other reasons why we don't use them. Certain organic sunscreens or chemical sunscreens, there are links with hormonal imbalances. They're tenuous. There's not enough evidence for me to say, oh, absolutely, you'll get their estrogen mimicked because you'll end up having early menopause or problems with breast cancer. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I would rather use zinc oxide. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. It covers UVA, UVB in one ingredient. But if there is a beautiful organic sunscreen that comes along in a few years' time and it ticks all the boxes in terms of doesn't mimic estrogen, is reef safe, doesn't cause photosensitivity, doesn't cause any irritation, fine.
So you only use Uber Zinc personally?
I only use Uber Zinc, yeah. And if I'm not using Uber Zinc, I use a hat and I use long sleeves.
I was going to say, what about when you go to the beach?
Yeah. And it's really hard. I find I've got a tan memory from when I was a teenager and I didn't do the smart things back then. But even if I go out for a few minutes at 11 o'clock and I've just got a short sleeves on, I forget, I will get a little bit of colour, and that's just living in Queensland. So you have to be so careful. Yeah. But in saying that,
need the sun?
You do. This is my next thing.
Yeah, this is the big debate.
So I was such an advocate, and I think all scientists need to be open to changing their minds when new evidence comes along, okay? So I was like, sunscreen, don't go out in the sun, da-da-da-da. Now I get early morning sun. Yeah. I go out for a walk in the morning, or I go out in the...
Cover your face, get your arms out.
Make sure I get some sun on my body, because that vitamin D and red light is imperative.
Huberman says, sit out in the sun for 30 minutes a day. Well, try to see how you feel.
I don't know about 30 minutes. I probably wouldn't do 30 minutes, but I would definitely walk around incidentally.
Because we're all vitamin D deficient.
We are.
So badly.
I know. And I think it's worse to be vitamin D deficient in many ways than to get a little bit of sun and stay on top of it. Yeah. And absolutely I use sun protection. I'd be crazy if I didn't, but then I'm also mindful that I need red light and I need vitamin D, which is in UVB, so I need a little bit of that. Yeah. And also earthing is really important to me as well.
Oh, do you have a grounding mat?
Yes, I've got a grounding sheet. I sleep on it.
Okay, because I got sent one and I'm not sure. I'm sort of testing it, but I can't really feel it.
I know, that's the problem is
and it's a brand called Groundwell.
Yeah.
Have you seen those ones?
I use Earthing Oz, but I'm not brand loyal.
They're not very expensive, so I don't know whether it could be.
You can tell if it is, because if you put a plug in, they give you an earthing socket to see if the plug that you're putting it into goes to earth or not. Oh, and that's what I got with the Earthing Oz one, so I can tell if the plug, because sometimes you might have a socket that actually isn't taking you to earth, but most of them should be. So I use an earthing mat.
Because I've got a mat and I've got a sheet, and I just don't know if it works. So I'm not sure what to do.
Can I be honest with you? I don't notice a huge difference. I think for me, I notice much more of a difference with red light therapy. Yeah. vibrational, and also my supplement stacks.
And also being barefoot when you go outside.
Walking in the sand.
Yeah.
Even swimming in the water in the ocean, that's grounding. Because
Yes.
you're connected with the earth through the salt water.
Someone told me that. Something to do with the ions?
Yeah, you're at one with the earth's gravitational pull when you're walking on the ground.
It sounds so woo-woo, but to have a scientist say that it's real is so
it's real.
good.
You're talking about electrons being transported from the ground into your body and energizing your cells. It is that.
It's a real thing, people. Grounding, earthing.
Thing. Yeah,
I know, because I've interviewed so many very high-profile, like good business leaders and smart people, and they're all saying that they're doing their grounding practices. I'm like, okay.
I think it's better, to be honest, to walk on the sand for half an hour a day or to walk on grass.
Yes.
And particularly if you've been overseas, make it a practice during daylight to take your shoes off and walk on grass in wherever you've gone, or walk on sand, and that'll get you into the circadian rhythm of where you are.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
What's the most underrated skincare ingredient that people aren't using but should be?
I would say postbiotics. For me, probiotics are great, but the problem with probiotics in skincare is if they put the live bacteria in the skincare and they use a preservative, which any good formulator has to, it's a no-brainer, you're killing the bacteria.
So it's pointless.
It's absolutely pointless. So if you see live bacteria, just don't even go there, because if it doesn't
So
have
if they say
preservative,
lactobacillus or something.
Lactobacillus or anything. So what you need
Rubbish.
is postbiotic, which is like if you've got bacteria and you squeeze them really hard and you've got to add all the goodies, that's postbiotic. It's what the bacteria make that are good for your body, not the bacteria
themselves. And how come
themselves.
the preservative doesn't kill that?
Because it's chemicals, it's not molecules, it's not living cells. So you're using what's called a lysate. So the bacteria get chopped up, and what's inside the bacteria gets released, and they are the beneficial molecules that serve our skin. And that can't be killed because it's not living. And that's what I prefer to use.
So that was one of your 3 products.
Yeah,
Dermiotic.
So postbiotic is a mixture of prebiotic and postbiotic skincare. So it's the goodies in the bifidobacteria, which is the bacteria that I use. So it's a bifidobacteria lysate, not the bacteria.
And it doesn't get killed.
No,
because of the
postbiotics.
because
It's not a living entity. It's what was in the living entity. It's like taking iron, and you get your iron from a plant source or whatever. You're not actually putting a live plant in your iron tablet. You're using the molecule of iron, or the element of iron, I should say.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Does expensive skincare actually work better? I mean, what do you think? Like, how do we know if we're just paying for fancy packaging or marketing?
That's a really important question, because it's a double-edged sword. Okay, so you've got your El Cheapo or low-range product, and if they say they've got active ingredients, probably they do, but it's also about the dosage. So for my thing, I always talk about the 3 Ds: dosage, how much is in there to make an effect; delivery, how it gets to the target cells; and data, how much science there is behind it. And often with the cheaper brands, they might have the ingredient, but they have it at such a low level that it's not going to do anything. So that's why it's cheap. Because usually, I mean, I've got ingredients that are $60,000 a kilo. But you might only need 0.001%. So again, you've got to look at the clinical data that gives you the result for pigmentation, for fine lines and wrinkles, for hydration. Look at the dosage, use that dosage in your formula. That's always been my go-to.
Yeah.
And conversely, so that's why maybe the cheap stuff might not work. And often it's just nurturing, oily, lovely stuff, and they haven't put actives in it, which is fine if you want that lovely, goopy feel.
Sheen on your skin,
but I want activity, personally,
Me
so
too.
that's why I create it. The other side of the coin is there's some very expensive brands out there that rest on their laurels of packaging and a name, and if you reverse engineer the ingredients, which I have with a couple of brands, and there's no way I'm going to say that because
You'll tell me off camera.
It's stuff that maybe has been around for years, so it's not new technology, or they've just created this name and this brand. And I think, you've got to look at the real deal. Look at the dosage, delivery and data.
But so often they sponsor their own, studies as well.
Yeah, they do.
So
it
has to be third-party tested?
You have to have third-party testing. Or send your product off to a lab to get it tested independently, which is what we've done with a few of our products as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
As a beauty editor, I mean, I spent years going to events and being schmoozed, and we get through, some of the stuff they tell you, and you're just like, this is pseudoscience. Like, and there's always these like little poetic stories about harvesting the kelp off the coast of, you know, wherever. And
that's one of the products I was going to say. Okay, right.
Yeah, so I guess I am trained to look for the discrepancies or look for the bullshit, basically. But how can the average woman look at the back of a product and know? I guess you go on their website and look for their claims and their data. Like, brands are not very forthcoming with this information.
That's where clean science comes in with transparency.
Yes. So you're having
you can
percentages.
You can ring Synergy. I wouldn't give my P1 a formula and say this is the whole formula.
No.
That would be suicide.
Madness.
But we are absolutely open to talking about percentages of some of the key active ingredients, and rest assured that I just couldn't lie in bed straight at night if I know my supplier has come to me with the data that says this peptide will reduce the appearance of pigmentation when used at 1%. Why would I use it at 0.5%? That's wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just have to use the active data.
Just hope that the marketing teams and the formulators are doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a best age to start using active skincare? And what's the biggest mistake people in their 20s, 30s and 40s are making?
If you term sunscreen as active skincare, which I would say from birth, and you can use zinc oxide on babies because it's anti-inflammatory. That's what nappy rash cream is basically. That's one element. Also, I think once you're starting to hit puberty, and it's happening younger and younger with both girls and boys now, and those hormonal changes start to take hold, again, don't be aggressive. And I think this is where a lot of parents and even the kids start to throw everything at their skin at once. I don't believe in harsh ingredients like high levels of glycolic acid or benzoyl peroxide. I think that they can be quite damaging to the skin. So be gentle, be nurturing, and know that it's about hormones balancing, because hormone imbalance is a part of puberty. It's just a given, as is menopause, to be honest, hormonal imbalance. So we have to honour that time in our lives and treat it gently.
That's really good. If someone came to you with a limited budget and wanted the best skincare routine possible, what's the non-negotiable lineup?
Yeah, definitely a good cleanser, a niacinamide, and a sunscreen. They would be the three things. But also, if they could bring into their equation a vitamin C and a retinoid. Yeah. And in my opinion, the best form of vitamin C is ascorbyl tetraisopalmitate. It's
well said.
ATIP, and 83% of it converts to L-ascorbic acid, but L-ascorbic acid as such is so unstable. So this is a really stable form of getting it into your skin without it breaking down on its journey to the target cells and then getting converted to L-ascorbic acid at the target cell level.
Which product of yours is that?
Efficacy.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was searching for a long time. I used to use pure sea crystals, and that's still around, but a lot of people found that a hassle, mixing the crystals with a serum or with water. And I was like, but it's the best form, and it is the best form, but it's so unstable. Once you put in a liquid, it starts to break down.
So have you switched to efficacy after that?
I have, and I'm a skincare tragic.
All right, we've got Sacred Six time.
Yes,
I would love to see what your Sacred Six are.
You know I love my red light therapy, but I do travel a lot. Yes. So this is my little travel one. I've actually also got a neck one as well, a neck and deck.
Yes.
I do like the Omnilux. I don't like talking about brands too much, but this has a lot of science behind it, the Omnilux for a travel one. It does have near infrared and red light as well, which is so important because red light only gets to the surface of the skin, whereas the near infrared penetrates deeper. I love it.
So do you wear it with that and your do the red light?
No. At home, when I've got my panel,
you don't
that's
face.
the king for me.
Yeah.
This is my travel one.
Okay,
but red light is so
essential.
important. Yeah. So this is my vitamin B serum.
Yes, I love that. I use that too.
Yeah. So XLB is the stronger one. I must admit I use the stronger one, but vitamin B is just
it's beautiful.
And it's really
soothing, isn't it?
It is so soothing, but also it does work on so many levels. It works on pigment, on collagen, on ceramides and hydration, on inflammation, even for acne sufferers on oil. So it truly does so many things, and it is so underestimated, and it's a combination that I use with a couple of other ingredients that puts it on steroids.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What's that?
Panthenol. So B3, B5 together is a great combo.
As in you've got that in there?
Yes, I've got that as well. So
brilliant.
That's my special.
This has won lots of awards, this product.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm really proud of that one. So my vitamin B, my red light, my supplement stack, which we've talked about today, and I think that, look, if we could get back to our great-grandmother and grandfather's era, that would be great, but we can't get organic food everywhere. There are things in our water, so I just look at what I put in my body every day. I don't have sugar. This is something I'm really strong on. Sugar to me is one of the most toxic things that we can put in our bodies, and we're talking about anything that becomes glucose in our body.
Wow.
So
you are so strict with
I'm
that.
really, really strict. I'll still have occasional treat. Like the other day we went out for dinner and I had a little bit of Ellen's dessert.
Yeah.
But I will have stevia chocolate, stevia based.
Do you make it or you buy it?
No, I buy it.
Who does a good stevia chocolate?
It's called Eat Well Naturally in Woolies. It's a good one. I love it. It's so yum.
Amazing.
I have that. They've got dark and they've got coconut, everything.
Oh.
And allulose, we need to talk about that, but that's a whole discussion.
Oh, really?
Allulose is a rare sugar that's actually taken from sugar, and it is called a non-nutritive sweetener. But it actually is good for you. So unlike stevia and monk fruit that aren't bad for you, but they're natural.
They don't
hurt you.
Nourishing to your body.
They don't add anything to you. Except stevia apparently is related to collagen. There's some vague studies not proven, but anyway, that's another story. Allulose actually works on the GLP-1 receptor as well, so it actually helps with satiety as well.
So do you buy allulose and use it as a sweetener?
You can get it an iHerb at the moment.
Do you personally use it?
I personally use it every day.
In your cooking and things?
I have a Ninja Creamy. I make my own soft serve ice cream and my own yogurt. And so I add allulose as the sweetener, and it tastes exactly the same as sugar.
Oh my gosh, okay.
It's amazing. So I use that. So no sugar. The other thing is obviously my exercise routine. I'm really big on...
So do you still eat fruit?
I eat berries. I eat raspberries and strawberries.
That's it, yeah.
And I don't love the taste of blue.
Mangoes, nectarines, none of
I
that business?
tend not to have the high sugar foods, but that's me.
Because you're used to it now too.
Because fructose, and the other thing is fructose isn't that great for you. I mean, sucrose is the worst, sucrose and glucose, and fructose isn't great either. So I try and have my carbs with, say, sweet potato or my normal veggies. You can get enough carbohydrate with a high veggie diet. And my team at Synergie laugh at the size of the food, the portions I have with salads and veggies every day. You can't jump over what I can eat in salads and veggies.
Must be working for you.
And protein obviously is really important as we get older.
How do you get enough protein?
It's
in
really
your
hard,
diet?
right?
It's so hard.
It's so hard. So I have a lot of whey protein. I'm not a vegan, but if I was, I'd probably have pea protein or
What are your favourite brands?
I actually have what's the brand? It's actually not that special. I can't remember the name of it. I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah,
I've got it at home.
We'll link it
it's
in
a
the show
really
notes.
good one. I got it at
Because
Health Food.
Terri always does her research.
That's
why I'm always grilling you. I'm like, which brand?
And
okay.
And I think for me, whey protein isolate.
Oh yes.
But also whey protein concentrate's good, but the isolate's slightly better.
Okay.
So I have quite a bit of that every day. I eat a lot of chicken. I eat turkey.
What about collagen? What collagen do you
Yes.
take?
Well, I'm about to release.
Oh, okay.
But
is it a hydrolyzed
bovine bovine
Bovine,
collagen
good.
peptides. Again,
I like those the best.
For me, the fish one, there's very little difference between the bovine and fish, but again with the fish mercury.
Yeah.
And that's my concern. So I'd rather go grass-fed bovine. The other thing, it's not about the collagen. The collagen is actually very, very challenging for our body to metabolize. It's the hydrolyzed collagen. And back in the day, a lot of collagen.
As in hydrolyzed collagen is better
the
for our
peptides,
body
yes.
to
Sorry,
metabolize.
it's much better. So back in the day, there was a lot of collagen out there, or they would do bone broth and things like that.
Yes.
Not as good. And so I would be banging on about don't do it.
You don't like bone broth?
It doesn't work as well as collagen peptides because it's not hydrolyzed. It's much harder for the body to assimilate. If you look at the impact of bone broth, gram for gram versus hydrolyzed collagen peptides, and this is very nerdy, but if you say radioactively tagged the hydroxyproline, the proline and the lysine in that, and see where it goes to the skin, you'll get way more effect from hydrolyzed collagen peptides than bone broth.
So in terms of like for like or whatever you're putting in your body, you may as well have a collagen
It's apples and
peptide.
oranges.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you eat lots of butter? Like, are you a believer in the high fat diet?
I am. I have a big avocado every single day.
But you're not a big butter fan.
I'm not averse to butter. I'd have butter on vegetables.
And dairy?
Dairy, I have
take
dairy. I
because of
make
the
my own
calcium.
yogurt, and I use my own culture. And
that's amazing.
I've got a yogurt maker.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I do it in a glass container, not a plastic container.
Oh, I love this. Okay, I'm going to have to grill you for
brand,
all the details on that.
I'll link you the
Maybe
brand.
you can share your recipe.
Yeah.
Would you?
Oh my gosh, it's so easy. Just buy the culture from, I just get the culture and add my milk.
Where do you buy the culture?
I actually get it on Amazon, and there's another place I'll link you as well, which has, it was a bit too tart, the one on Amazon, so I've got a milder version. It's got beautiful taste. And then you can use UHT milk, but don't go lactose free. I made that mistake because you need the lactose to ferment.
Oh, bummer. Okay.
I have lactose free milk.
Me too.
But when you make yogurt, the bacteria
you need the full cream.
Anyway.
No, that's fascinating. And you eat meat and you eat.
Yeah. I don't eat much red meat, but I eat a lot of chicken. I do have white fish.
You have to get organic. Do you get organic or just free range? Is that okay?
I have free range.
Yeah, organic's hard and expensive.
It's really hard, and
it's hard to find.
Even at the markets.
Yeah.
You know, so I do eat high quality white fish. I can't eat shellfish, and I can't eat like a lot of I can't eat prawns. It's just a sensitivity I have. But so I just eat whole food. I think if you looked in my fridge, there's very little processed food.
Yeah,
it's all pretty much made from scratch or whole food or.
So you get your probiotics from yogurt. Do you do sauerkraut or kombucha?
Kimchi, kombucha. I had that yesterday.
Do you make your own? No.
I did for a while.
I did too.
Yeah, it's hard.
Having that SCOBY, weird SCOBY alien sitting in the cupboard.
I think if I did everything, I wouldn't get out of
you can't leave the house. All right, so avoid sugar, exercise.
And I think the one thing that we also touched on today is human connection, and this is what we're doing now.
That's right. This is why it's so fun.
I have not talked like this on a podcast. Obviously, I haven't ever. And you bring out the best in me.
Oh, you're so beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for opening up to me and trusting me, because I know it's not easy talking about this stuff.
I do. And you know what? I feel like
I was so close to crying.
I know it's a safe space.
Yeah.
And we're both really strong women. Yeah. And you're amazing.
Oh, you're amazing. Thank you. I feel so blessed to sit with you and hear your story, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Love you.
Love you too. Oh,
what a wonderful chat. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Beautiful Inside. If you enjoyed this, the best thing you can do is share it with a friend, leave a review or give us a rating.